Hey guys, so today we're actually going to be giving you a trophy room tour of some bucks that we've killed in the past couple of years. Hopefully you like it, and we can go more in depth in some of these stories if you guys are fans of them and want to hear more. So this is the first deer. This is the one that we call the Clean 8. We just have him Euro mounted here. He's a nice clean 3.5-year-old 8-point. So this story starts one weekend. My cousin and I, we went and we set up a new tree stand. Couldn't really hunt it that weekend. It was a little bit warm still, so we went back the next weekend. And what we did is I kind of sat on the lower end. He sat just a little bit higher than me. I was in charge of shooting. He was in charge of calling and getting those deer to come in. So kind of a little bit about the setup. We were back in the timber overlooking this open field. And we saw a small buck come through, and he actually checked a couple scrapes and then fed off into the field. And then we saw the Clean 8 come out. So as we're sitting there trying to decide what to do, my cousin grabs the grunt call, gives him a couple grunts, quick snort wheeze, and here he comes right through that open field to that tree line. And he starts kind of feeding away a little bit. And we ended up giving him one more snort wheeze, and then he had a decision to make. So there was a trail that kind of went 20, 22 yards away, perfectly broadside, or there was a trail that basically came right underneath the tree at about 4 or 5 feet. So, deer being deer, what they decided to do, he actually walked on the trail that was basically right at us, 5 feet underneath the tree. So as he's getting closer and closer and closer, I got a decision to make. Do I pass him up, or do I take potentially a bad shot? So I ended up drawing back as he's coming towards us, and I shot him at about 10 feet. I actually entered just behind his shoulder blades, and the arrow, since he was coming right at us, it went down through his entire body, through both lungs, through the liver, through the guts, and into his back rump. So we get down about 2 hours later, because we knew we probably hit some vitals, but we also knew we probably didn't get an exit. So we gave him about 2 hours, then we get down and we slowly start looking for blood. We got our headlamps on, phone lights out, everything like that, and we cannot find a drop of blood. So we decide to back out. We'll go back in, we'll hunt in the morning, and then we'll look for blood again then. So the next morning rolls around. We go back in and hunt, get down after about 2 hours, and we go look for blood again. And we ended up finding one little, maybe quarter-sized drop of blood. And that was about it. So I went south, he went north, and we just started grid searching. We looked everywhere, looked in bedding areas, looked down by some water draws, everything like that. And we couldn't find any blood. We couldn't find anything. So after a couple hours later, my cousin finally gives me a call back and says, "Hey, let's meet down in this creek bottom. It's about halfway between both of us. We'll just walk out together." So on my way there, I'm going up and down these ridge tops and down into the bottoms. So I stopped to catch my breath, and I just happened to look over to my left. And what I see was the best sight ever. Down in this little bitty gully, I could just see a little bit of white and a little bit of antler sticking up. So I called my cousin back, and lo and behold, he's sitting there watching. I don't know if he saw the deer first or not, but we ended up finding him, and then we drug him all the way back to the truck and cleaned him up before family dinner that night. So that's the gist of the Clean 8 story. Now we'll go. So this deer here, this is a deer we called Captain Hook. He had little crab claws on both of his beams here coming off the end. So we call him Captain Hook because obviously he has 2 hooked crab claws. So the story behind this deer, I actually shot him opening second night of gun season 2023. So I had some pretty big plans on this Saturday. Gun season opens on Thursday here. It's a big holiday, so everybody always takes off, and they hunt Thursday, Friday. Didn't really see much on Thursday. Hunting out of this heated blind. with windows all the way around it, and a little bit of heater because it's a little bit cold in Illinois on them winter hunts. So like I said, I had these big plans. Saturday morning, my wife and I needed to be up and gone out of the house by 6:30 in the morning. I know, bad timing for shotgun weekend, but it is what it is. So Friday night, I'm hunting. Hadn't really seen much. A couple does out in the food plot by the water hole. Maybe a couple small bucks out in the field. But then it's 30 minutes before last light, and I see Captain Hook coming through the trees. He's in between the old levee and our field edge. He's just walking down the middle, and I see him. But I only see him, and he's like 50 yards away. And the way that this window's set up, you only have maybe a 30-yard stretch when they're walking that trail to see them, open the window, get on them, and shoot. So as he's walking through, I see him, and he's only 15, 20 yards from the beginning of this stretch where I can actually shoot him. So I'm trying to be really quiet. I'm trying to open this window, and he's getting further and further along, and I'm scared that I'm not going to be able to get the shot. So it's actually an old house window that we turned horizontal instead of vertically. So I just slam open the window, and that stops him in his tracks. So I stick my muzzleloader out the window. I line up on him. It's still on zoom all the way 9, and this deer's at 25 yards. So I see bone. I go a little bit behind it. I pull the trigger. So up until this point, myself, I haven't been very good with a gun. I've only killed one other deer with a gun up until this point. So I'm sending out texts to my 2 cousins and my dad, and they're all hunting. I said, I think I killed Captain Hook. I think I heard him go down, but I'm not sure. I'm going to stay put. So I did. I stayed put. And my cousin's actually back. He's hunting about a mile back on some other property that you have to walk. So him being the good cousin he is, he actually starts walking out so that way we can hopefully come find my deer. On his way out, he's actually walking, and he's, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes from the truck, and he sees this doe run down this hillside. So same time, he sits behind this big tree, and he's just waiting, just in case. There's still 30, 45 minutes of shooting light left, and lo and behold, here comes this big, high-tined 8-pointer, dogging this doe right behind him. So he picks up his gun, he's behind this tree, and he shoots him. Boom, drops him. Turns out he shot him in the spine, so now this deer's trying to get up, and he's shooting muzzleloader too. So he's reloading his gun, he's jamming it back in there, and he puts another one in him, and he sends back in the group chat, I just shot one too. It's going to be a long night, boys. So this next deer, the last one we'll be talking about today, we called him the spiral buck. So as you can see, he kind of just goes up, and he's got a lot of points on this one side. Looking back now, probably should have let him go another couple years, but this was my first 130-inch buck that I ever shot. So the spiral buck, it was a cold October morning. Fresh rain, fresh cold front just came in, and my cousin had actually just shot a deer that we call Lefty. I think it was a couple days before, maybe the weekend before. So he's just shot Lefty, and I go in, I'm all amped up and I'm excited. So I'm going in and I'm looking for this other buck, which I ended up connecting with a couple months later. But we're going in looking for that deer, and I had a great morning. There was does out in the food plot eating the radishes and turnips. There was everything. Everything was perfect. Next thing I know, here come a few does over from out of the field over the levee. And, late October, whenever you see a bunch of does running, you're going to grab your bow and you're going to get ready. So sure enough, here they come out. And there's 4 or 5 does. They're coming from my right to my left. So as they're coming through, I said, okay, this one's going through here. I can pick them off here, or I can pick them off there. There's 2 trails that these does walk and both of them gave me perfect opportunities to take the spiral buck. Sure enough, spiral buck doesn't take either one of those trails, and he's kind of bobbing and weaving in between the two. Puts him in a really bad spot for me to get a shot. So I ended up trying to stop him as he's going from my right to my left, and I'm drawing back and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and it feels like it's 10 minutes, probably every bit of 25 seconds. But anyway, so he ends up walking, and I finally get him stopped, and I ended up shooting him a little bit far back. It ended up going in behind his rib cage, but sure enough, he fell over within 200 yards. And that is the story of the spiral buck.